Nobody accomplished anything great by being lazy. Look, I understand because I sometimes go through seasons of where everything is going really well and I have a lot of energy. And then there's also seasons where, you know what, cruise control or even on the downslope a little bit. But I'll tell you this, an insurance producer who's trying to build $1 million book of business, who is relatively new in the insurance business, several months, just a few years, whatever, this is go time. This is not time to be sitting back. This is not time to try and be just an inside salesperson. You're a producer. You're a producer, and that means you produce. You have one primary activity, and that is to prospect for new appointments. And when you go on those appointments, when you meet with these business owners, the next primary activity at that time is to close the business. That's what we'll be talking about on today's podcast. Stay tuned. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Millionaire Insurance Producer Podcast. My name is Charles Specht, and I am so glad you are here. I'm your host, and as normal, I don't beat around the bush. I don't waste time because you're on the elliptical machine, you are on your walk, you're on the Peloton, you're doing whatever you're doing, and we don't want to waste time. So let's get into it. Here's what we're talking about today. Laziness. Here's why I'm talking about this, because I've got a bee in my bonnet. I'm a little upset. I'm kind of pumped up. I've got a lot going on, and I was doing a one-on-one coaching call with a client this afternoon. I have an agency that's on retainer, and I work with a number of their insurance agents to kind of teach them. And this particular agency has me working with their newer agents. And so when they bring on these agents, I typically work with them for several months up to a year or so. Okay. So you got a new producer who's relatively new in the game. This particular producer is coming out of college, going into the agency, has been at the agency now for over 6 months. I think it's closer to about 8 months. And, been doing a lot of stuff, been doing some sort of internal, onboarding of accounts, been doing some rating for other agents. This particular producer also receives incoming leads that come from the telephone or from the email. And so this particular quote unquote producer has been spending too much time doing reactive type of activity rather than proactive. And I've said this to him several times. It's like, look, I get it. I know you're supposed to be doing these things, and it's good that you're doing these things because you have to learn. You have to go through the repetition. There's just a learning curve in the insurance business, and it is what it is. But at the same time, you were hired to be a producer, not to be a glorified account manager, and certainly not to be an inside salesperson. And this is what I told him. I said, look, there's going to come a time in the very near future, I don't know exactly when, I haven't had conversations with the agency leadership, but there's going to come a time in which those incoming leads are going to be cut off. And they're going to be given to the next producer or the next batch of producers. And then you are going to be expected to produce. But the problem is right now you haven't been doing anything and your prospect list is nil. It is weak. It is sad. And you've been just sort of coasting on these tiny little accounts that have been coming in. And so at the beginning of this conversation, I'd asked this producer, tell me what's been going on. What have you been working on? He said, well, I closed this piece of business a couple weeks back. I'm like, all right, tell me about it. And ended up being like the small little account, I don't know, $4,000 of premium. I said, time out, man, time out. I get it. I know that this is what you're working on, but is this really what you're working on? Is this it? I then followed up with a question. I said, tell me when was the last time you actually closed a piece of business because of your efforts to produce, because you actually set the appointment, because you contacted the insured in the first place. He said, 2-3 months, maybe 2 or 3 months. This is a producer, ladies and gentlemen. This is a producer. And so look, I'm going to be very clear. I had to lay into him for about 20 minutes, but at the end of the conversation, I said, look, I want to just make sure that you understand I am not trying to beat you here, but at the same time, I am trying to beat you so that you understand how important it is. This is your career and you want to be able to accelerate. This is not the time for cruise control. And I said, so let's just understand. Yeah, you can handle some of this stuff when they come in, but you are a producer. And I really started to kind of get my juices flowing because as we were talking about, he was doing some LinkedIn prospecting. He was doing some email prospecting. And look, I encourage people to do it. It's great. It's just that very often that tends to be sort of not direct prospecting. It's sort of like we hope it happens. It's different than, say, a walk-in or a cold call or different things like that. It's great. It's just that slightly different. And then he said, I'm trying to do about 10 calls a day. And, sometimes I accomplish that. Sometimes we don't. He started talking. I said, time out. I said, stop, just stop for a minute. I can't let you go on. Did you say you're due maybe about 10 calls a day? Yeah, trying to do about 10 calls a day. I said, how long does it take you to do that? He said, well, I'm doing a lot of research. I'm trying to check them out on the internet and see if I can find anything about them. I said, okay, so I get it if that was a very large size account. How big are these accounts that you're doing this research on? He said, maybe $5,000 a premium. I said, stop it. Just stop it. Don't do that anymore. I told him, don't do any more data management, data mining. Don't try to find more information on Facebook. I said, just dial numbers, period. Dial. I told him, I said, I can make 10 calls in 20 minutes, 30 minutes max. 30 minutes max. You're at the office 8, 9, 9.5, 10 hours a day. What are we doing, Mr. Producer? What are we doing? And I ask you the same thing. What are you doing with your time? What are you doing with your time? What? No, I want you to answer this. What are you, Mr. Producer, Mrs. Producer, Miss Producer? What are you doing with your time? I don't understand it. You want to make money, right? This is why you got in the insurance business. You want to make that money. You want to get that money so that you can go get that Ferrari or that nice house or that vacation, whatever, right? You want to do it. Are we doing the work that matters? Data mining on Facebook to try and find some tidbits about people for a $5,000 premium account is not the answer. We have to make sense of all the things we're doing. You might do it on bigger accounts, and I would say I don't even waste time doing data mining on accounts that are like $100,000 a premium. Don't. Just dial. Create your prospect list and dial. That's it. That is what you do. Stop trying to waste time on just, working around things from email and LinkedIn and all that. Pick up the phone and call. But this is what I also said to him. I said, look, when's the last time you ever did a walk-in visit? He said, I don't know, I'm not really sure about it. I said, okay, here's the thing. I said, I'm with you on this one because walk-in visits scares me to death as well. I don't like it. I don't like doing walk-in visits. Charles doesn't like to do walk-in visits. I don't like it. Don't like it. I don't like to show up at people's place of business unannounced. I would much rather call, set the appointment, and show up when I'm supposed to show up. I would rather do that. But I also know that when I don't do that, I get really good results. And I would tell you that I'm not somebody that does a lot of unplanned walk-in visits because, I think I'm decent enough to make enough appointments. And then when I go on my appointments, then I do walk-in visits. I go to the account I'm supposed to go to. And then when I come out of that account, I go to the business to the left and I go to the business to the right. So for every business that I set an appointment, I'm going to 2 unplanned walk-in visits. It's just that I don't plan the whole day for walk-in visits. It's a whole lot easier, I think, for me to just go into my business, have my message, my conversation. I come out, I go to the business to the left and say, hey, I was just talking with Jerry next door. And it just makes the walk-in visit, I think, a little bit easier. So practice that, what's called the T rule when you do your appointments. But I said to him, look, I have a client. She's very similar to you. She is up in the northeastern part of the states, and she's not very good on the telephone. And so I said, look, we're going to have to come up with a better way for you to prospect because the telephone is not a strong thing for you. That's just not where you're at. She's like, I know, Charles, I agree that I'm just better face-to-face. I said, perfect. So here's what we're going to do. There's nobody in the office who wants to buy anything from you anyway. Did you hear me? I said nobody in the office wants to buy anything from you, okay? Just want to make sure you're listening on the podcast. By the way, thanks for listening to the podcast. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed yet to the Millionaire Insurance Producer podcast, go ahead and click that subscribe button and would love for you to leave us a 5-star review. But back to the podcast now. She said, Charles, I really want to just be face-to-face. And so I said, there's nobody in the office that wants to buy anything from you, so let's do this. Get out of the office. I want you to put together a list of about 50 accounts that are in your local geographic territory, and I want you just to do walk-in visits. Just go in. We took a look at the types of accounts, the size of accounts she was going after. She's not in a very large metropolitan area, so the accounts aren't huge, but that's basically what this agency does, right? They really kind of handle Main Street USA, small, maybe even like small to middle market. And she just started doing walk-in visits. And this was the basics of her script. Hello, I'm breathing. I'm alive. I'm local. I would like to take a look at your insurance policies and see if we can offer you some quotes, as well as simply just become your insurance agent going forward. That was basically what her script was when she walked in. Hi, I'm alive. I'm actually somebody that's here. I'm not Geico, for example. Like I don't know if you've got an agent in another state, but I'm actually here local. I would like to take a look at your policies and see if we can save you some money, and I would like to become your local insurance agent. And so she just started doing this. And you know what? She started getting broker of record letters. I told her, I said, don't go into any of these visits without any blank broker of record letters with you. Carry some blank BORs. And so she started doing it. She started doing her walk-ins, and it was either like the second or the third day that she started to do this. I had her respond to me when she was done to let me know how it went, and she said she got 3 signed broker of record letters, 3 new clients that day just from doing walk-in visits. Basically just saying, hello, I am alive. I am here. I am local. When you need anything, you simply call. I'm just about 5-minute drive away. I'll be your local insurance agent. You know what? And for those types of accounts, and they were probably like $15,000 to $20,000 premium accounts. But again, that's just sort of the bread and butter for that agency. And she got 3 new clients in a day. She would typically get anywhere from about 3 to 7 clients in a week just by doing that, just by going around. You know what? Do the math. Do the math. Hey, let's do some math. Let's say you did that. Let's say you went out and you spent, 4 to 5 hours, a couple of days a week going out and seeing different accounts. And let's say you saw like maybe 20 accounts per day. So if you did it twice in a week, that might be 40 different businesses that you would do walk-in visits, 40 different businesses that you would do walk-in visits every single week, okay? 40 different businesses. I'm getting my calculator so that if you can see me on YouTube, by the way, I have a YouTube page at Permission Sales on YouTube. I'm getting my calculator because I'm just not that smart. So if we were doing 40 different walk-in visits every single week, times 52 weeks, that is 2,080 different walk-in visits. Think about that. If you went to 40 different businesses for 52 straight weeks, you'd go to 2,080 different businesses. Okay? Obviously, some of those you're going to see multiple times, but for the sake of the example, 2,080 different businesses. Can you guess how many are going to become your client? That's not crickets, folks. That's for us to start thinking. You go and see 2,000 different businesses. How many are going to give you a signed broker of record letter? A lot. I would venture to guess that at least 10% are going to give you a signed BOR just because you show up, because you are a better choice from who they currently have, because they don't even know who their current agent is, because their current agent doesn't work in the insurance business anymore, because their current insurance agent left their agency and went to another one a couple of years ago, because their current agency took it away from the producer, called it a small business unit account, and suddenly now they're just serviced by an account manager or whatever. There's just no reason for mediocrity. Let me say it again. No reason for mediocrity. You can do that on small accounts. You can do it on middle market accounts. You can do it on larger accounts. The real issue here is, are we going to be lazy or not? And I want to ask you that question. Are you going to be lazy or not? Are you really going to put your pedal to the metal? Are you going to put your foot down, accelerate, and get to the destination you want to get to? Don't you want to be a millionaire insurance producer? Don't you want to build $1 million or more book of business? I would venture to guess that you do. You want to get it up there. You want to be able to make as much money as you possibly can. You want to be successful. You want to set appointments. You want to win. You want to get more BORs. You want to win through a quoting process. Whatever. You have to do the work. It doesn't just come to you. You got to do the work, which means you have to set aside the time, which means you have to have the mental capacity to realize that this is not going to work if I just sit in my office. It's not going to work if I just sit here. I have to get out. I have to make calls, set appointments. I can't just not do the work. I have to do the work of prospecting. I have to set the appointments. I have to go out and see people and walk-in visits. You have to do the work. And my friends, My friends, if you do the work, you will reap the benefits. You will. You will absolutely reap the benefits if you do the work. And so when I finished that coaching call with this particular producer, we had been talking for about 25 minutes. And I said, all right, so I want to ask you like one final question here. And the final question, and then I said, I'm going to make a statement to you. So the final question is, I want to know right now, what are you going to do next week? And so I said, I want to know how many calls are you going to make every single day, and how many walk-in visits are you going to do every week? Those were the two parameters I set in stone. I said, I want to know how many are you going to do per day, and how many are you going to do per week? And so we set simple parameters on what the expectations are going forward. And I'll tell you this, if he doesn't follow through, I'm talking to agency leadership about it. I don't want to get anybody fired, but I want a fire under this person so that he will be successful. And if it just comes down to like holding people accountable, sometimes we need cheerleaders. Sometimes we need motivation. Sometimes we just need to actually set a gauge on what the numbers are expected for us every single week, and then just hold ourselves accountable. That's what we have to do. You got to figure out your numbers, okay? Then I finished that conversation by this. I said, look, I know I just hit you really hard. I kind of hit you in the nose for the last 25 minutes. But I'm doing this because, man, I want you to be successful. I want you to be successful. I actually think he can be a really good producer. I don't think that he's like bad or anything like that. I just think his motivation needs some help. And I think that he is focusing on the wrong things. And he's not focusing on the things that producers do. Okay. So I said, look, I actually think that you can do this. No problem. I think it's just a matter of we have to reevaluate where we're spending our time. And then we have to kind of push ourselves into the right direction and get some momentum going. Because right now, we're not doing producer work, we're doing reaction work. We're not producing, we are reacting. That is not a recipe for success as soon as you get cut off from any of these inbound leads. It's just not what you've been hired for. And so we have to create the system now so that when they cut you off, it's not going to be a problem because you're already going to be focusing on bigger accounts. You've already got your prospect list going forward. I said, but I know you can do this. I absolutely 100% know you can do this. And I know that you know you can do this. I just want to see you do it. And that's why we're having this conversation. Because I know you can do it. I know you can accomplish this. I know you want it. And now let's make it happen. Let's do some activity now. Let's do some activity these next several months, the remainder of this year, so that 12 months from now, you are going to be so excited and happy about what you did a year ago in order to achieve what you have now, these 12 months later. Let's do that. Let's be awesome. Let's double down. Let's put our foot on the gas pedal and accelerate rather than just cruise control. Because nobody builds $1 million book of business on cruise control. All right. Now, we are going to end in just a minute, but I can't let you go. I got to kind of tell you something. I've got something happening, and I want you to be a part of it. Okay? I want you to be a part of it. Loyal listeners of the Millionaire Insurance Producer Podcast, I want you to go to www.microniche.club. Microniche.club. Not .com, .club. microniche.club. Microniche.club. I'm going to be doing a training, and I'm putting together, it's sort of like a PDF digital course, which teaches how exactly to choose and dominate your most profitable micro niche. See, the problem is that most producers that I see out there, new producers who've been in the business for a few years, even like producers who have like sold business for a while, they realize like, I need to kind of figure out how to do this again because they've been on cruise control for a while. Most producers don't even know what to go after in order to generate success. Figuring out what type of business to go after is a struggle. And listen, it doesn't matter if you are a personal lines agent or if you are employee health benefits agent or if you're doing commercial P&C. Go to microniche.club. I want to sort of begin to help you. On that website, there's a one page on my website. You can put in your email address, and I'm going to be putting on a live training explaining about how all of this works. Okay. I want you to be a part of that live training because I'm going to be going through it step by step. Do this, do this, do this. And I'm trying to give you some of the more profitable micro niches that are out there. You know, some of them like are very micro niche. And if you can begin to actually figure out the right types of accounts to go after, then we can put together scripts. And by the way, in this training, I'm going to give you my sort of go-to script that I feel has helped set more appointments than almost any other script that I've seen, used myself, or seen from others. In fact, I use this script. I give it to people who I'm working with on one-on-one, and they say, I'm just setting more appointments with this particular script. And so I want to be able to share that with you as well. So go to microniche.club, put in your email address. What it is you're not actually signing up for anything other than just being notified that when this training gets ready to go live, you're going to be one of the first ones to have a seat, because I am limiting this particular training to a number of seats. So not everybody's going to be available to get to it. So go to microniche.club and get ready to start building your book of business to $1 million or more through having the most profitable micro niche. My name is Charles Specht. I am the president and CEO of Permission Sales, where I teach and train insurance agents just like you how to build a $1 million or more book of business through signed broker of record letters. This is the Millionaire Insurance Producer Podcast.